Hello and welcome back to another episode of Financial News and Your Money. Today is October 10th and Ron Jankowski, who is normally here with me, is off on vacation. So you're stuck with just myself, and I am Paul Municle, financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial. And I'm going to kick off today's show by letting you know what the Q3 earnings release season is going to look like as it gets underway this week. And it will be highlighted by some of the nation's largest financial institutions. So this week, 15 of the S&P 500 companies are on the docket. That including 7 large banks on Friday morning. Now, earnings estimates for the quarter have declined consistently and considerably over the course of the period, dropping from $59.37, that was up 10% year over year, but back on July 5th, to a current $55.22, which is significantly less at 2.5% increase year over year. Now, sales are expected to be about 8.5% higher year over year. Now, the Q3 results and management guidance remain critical at this moment, as many believe that earnings estimates have yet to fully incorporate current economic conditions. If we look out to Q4, consensus estimates look for year-over-year EPS growth of positive 4% on sales growth of about positive 6%. At the end of the second quarter, Q4 earnings were forecast to grow by 9.4%. As was the case in Q2, much of the upside to earnings growth in Q3 is expected to come from the energy sector. Now, excluding energy, aggregate EPS estimates would be down 4.3% according to FactSet. Now, all sectors, however, are expected to see year-over-year sales growth. For more on the outlook from the S&P 500 earnings estimates, feel free to give me a call and we can go into more detail on that topic specifically. Now, this is the part of the show where Ron will usually give some updates on trading indices for Monday morning, so I'm going to take over his role. So today, again, October 10th, the U.S. stock index futures, they're modestly lower as investors look to the Q3 earnings season that kicks off later this week, as I had mentioned, again with those big banks in focus. Markets in Asia closed lower, with China off over 3%, and Europe also was trading lower at midday. Now, looking over at bonds, the U.S. Treasury market is closed today for the Columbus Day holiday, so no trading there. And Bitcoin, it's lower and trading below $20,000. Gold is down 1.6%, and WTI crude is down 0.5% after a big week of gains on OPEC production cut details. Market numbers year to date, this is average, so S&P 500 year to date through Friday, down about 22%. We got the Dow Jones down about 18%, and we got the NASDAQ, the worst of the three, down about 31% year to date. Big numbers, but the year is not over, and we are hoping for a market recovery before that time. So that's going to conclude the first half of today's show. Please stay with us, and I'm going to tackle a timely topic. Are you financially prepared if a disaster strikes? So stay with us, and we will be right back. Okay, welcome back. Thanks for staying with me. And we are going to start the Your Money portion of the show. And as mentioned, it has to do with emergencies. And we're going to talk about natural disasters today, from floods to wildfires to, of course, the hurricanes that we've just experienced, tornadoes, snowstorms. They all seem to be in the news, and all too frequently. So as you watch or read the stories about the challenges facing the victims of the latest disaster, you might try to convince yourself that it will never happen to you. Now, nearly anyone, however, may be exposed to a natural disaster at some point. Keeping you and your family safe is the ultimate priority, but so is mitigating the impact of financial loss. So taking steps to be financially prepared for such an occurrence can determine your readiness to handle a life-changing event. So today I'm going to give you some things to keep in mind to help you be prepared. 1. Proper protections in place. There may be no more important step than to make sure you have appropriate insurance coverage that is current and up to date. This includes property and casualty insurance to protect your home, your vehicles, and other possessions. You'll want to make sure your coverage is sufficient for the replacement value at today's prices. And if you believe you would be subject to a flood, you also need to look into separate flood insurance policies from your agent or provided through the National Flood Insurance Program. It's also important to note that most homeowner policies do not cover flood damage. So again, with that topic, please reach out to your insurance agent just to make sure you're properly covered in case something should happen. Next, of course, you're going to want to make sure you have significant and sufficient health insurance in place too, should you require medical care following a disaster. Again, confirm with your health insurance provider that you are having the appropriate levels there. Next, cash on hand. It isn't unusual for many of the services we take for granted to be out of commission if a natural disaster should strike the area where we live. For example, power may be out, which means ATMs will be unable to dispense cash. Internet and cell phones service could be limited as well, making it difficult to conduct any transactions online. One solution might be to make sure you keep a reasonable amount of cash safely tucked away in your home so you have money that's available to use when you need it. During most times like these, most purchases may require cash. So you might want to be sure you have significant cash on hand that would meet your needs for a few days if you have to contend with such a drastic circumstance. Next, make sure you are protecting your key documents. Important documents should be stored in a safe place, such as a safety deposit box at a bank. This includes birth and marriage certificates, social security cards, passports, and titles to your homes and cars. In addition, if you have important household information stored on your computer, make certain it's backed up on a hard drive that is in a safe place. Keeping information on a safely stowed thumb drive that you can grab and keep with you in case of an emergency might also be helpful. Next, maintain an emergency fund. Your sources of income may be interrupted either by an inability to work due to injury or because the business where you're employed may not be able to operate for a period of time. Be sure you have potentially or at least 6 months of living expenses set aside in a liquid emergency fund, which is usually places like a bank savings account or maybe a money market fund, to meet your expenses should you be unable to work for an extended period of time. In conclusion, natural disasters, they can be devastating in so many ways. While the things we talked about today are some of the ways to financially prepare for a natural disaster, there may be additional actions you can take depending on the severity of the event and your individual circumstances. But remember, the more you can do in advance, the better prepared you will be when or should that event takes place. And as always, I am here as a resource to anyone watching this show. If you have questions or concerns with your financial investments or your financial planning, always give me a call, and you can call me directly. I can be reached at 708-226-3412. And with that, that's going to conclude today's episode of the show. I do appreciate everyone that watches. Thank you for tuning in. We bring a new show every week with new topics. So if this one did not interest you, give us a chance next week, and we're going to come back with something different. Wish everyone a good and safe week, and we will be back next week. Have a great one.